Not going to talk at you guys a whole lot on this. Just going to kind of go through 4 or 5 slides. Obviously, this is still a trying economic time for everybody. Not just for downtown, but for I think certainly all across the nation. You always get the feeling that maybe we're doing a little better here in Sun Prairie than we are in other areas. And there's some evidence for that. And then there's always the occasional issue out there that's like, oh, okay, well, we're not completely immune from everything that's going on here. There's obviously, we're still, occasionally having some struggles to deal with as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of those things tonight. So hopefully everybody watched the Super Bowl this year, even though our team wasn't in it. I had a great slide that I got to use all year last year that sometimes change is a good thing. It's a picture of Aaron Rodgers with the Super Bowl trophy. It was fantastic. Obviously can't use it this year. So we kind of had to put that one and retire that one at least till we come back and hopefully we win again. During halftime, did everybody see the commercial with Clint Eastwood? Yeah. You saw it? You guys know what I'm talking about? Clint gave a very, very serious presentation about a metaphor about being halftime in America. What the cartoon back here is kind of referring to. The gentleman in the chair is sitting here saying, yeah, well, it's got an unemployment headline in the paper. Says, well, I sure wish it was full-time instead of half-time. Again, I think a very realistic depiction of kind of where we're at. And I think that, yeah, there's some, the metaphor of halftime is always an interesting one because what happens, especially in terms of football, is that's when you go in, the coach goes in, he says, okay, what are we doing good? What are we doing not so good? What's the competition doing? It's very much a self-assessment time and a call to action. More importantly, it's not just going in and saying, okay, yeah, we're doing okay. I don't know if there are too many halftime speeches where I say, yeah, you know what, we're doing good. We'll just kind of, yeah. You guys go ahead and relax for 15 minutes and we'll go back out and keep doing what we're doing. That very rarely happens. So it is kind of a call to action. And I think in terms of the economy, I think that's kind of where we're at with some of this right now, too. So challenges. Some of these look pretty familiar. Most of these things, this list should probably be things a lot of folks have seen and talked about here a lot of times, certainly from a small business standpoint. Consumer confidence is still one of the most difficult things to measure, but yet it's also one of the more serious things, certainly in terms of a downtown environment, that's really an issue. Folks are spending less. They're not sure, how far each paycheck is going to go. They're more hesitant. They're less likely to do that, especially if it's more of just kind of free spending, not necessity spending. That's a tougher dollar to compete for right now. Folks are not as willing to go out and spend those things as they have in the past. Project financing all across economic development is still a tough, very tough sell. We are hearing more deals being made. Some of the requirements that banks are holding of individual business owners are just astonishing. Certainly in the condo development, it's even more just, really? Why don't they just cash fund it? It would be easier. At some point, why would you try to finance it if they're more likely to just save their money and pay for it up front sometimes. It's just astonishing how difficult that can be. Small businesses, a lot of them, especially if they have a seasonal or an intermediary type of revenue schedule, operational costs and cash flow is an issue. Sometimes it's, certainly businesses who do a lot of things in the summer, they're waiting for winter and then customer things to pick up. Holidays are done. There's times, a lot of our small businesses are very seasonal in terms of their revenue flows. Competition from large retailers is obviously one thing that is growing and certainly something that is on the radar here for certainly small businesses and from our downtown environment here in Sun Prairie. How does our downtown environment continue to exist and function and compete in an environment when we have almost as much square footage in retail going to be built that matches East Town Mall? Put it in perspective for everybody. We're going to have 500,000 square feet of retail under construction this summer. This summer. Woodman's is 225,000 square feet of that. One store is 225,000 square feet. That great big gray building is not a new state penitentiary right on Highway 151. It will eventually get paint treatment and other things. It's going to be a little nicer. But obviously that's a game changer, and it's certainly something, I know in terms of specific businesses we have, that's something that's on the radar screen that we need to figure out how to deal with and how to help them. Competition from online sales. The number of things that folks can sit at their home and never leave their house in order and have delivered to their house now is a huge competitive factor. Don't think that it's not. The number of times I see a FedEx truck or a UPS truck come by my house after hours, I don't know how many times they're driving by during the day, but they are dropping off packages constantly. So that convenience is a factor that certainly as a downtown retail environment, how do we compete with that as well? Uncertainty of federal and state regulations, certainly involved, and from a business standpoint, everything from healthcare to you name it, is certainly, in terms of someone trying to make an investment, they're nervous or they're not sure where to go with it. I'm not saying that the policies are good or bad, it's just that they're uncertain. They don't know which way they're going to go, how long they're going to be around. That makes it tough to make investments in local business. Internal operational conflicts and limited resources. Sometimes, if we find out not only in terms of as community organizations, making sure we're trying to pull all our own weight at common purposes, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes we need to do a little bit extra effort to make sure that we are doing things a little bit better. And limited resources is something that obviously is a huge asset, not only in terms of small business, but also in terms of each individual and small businesses all throughout Wisconsin. So what's the upside of some of these things? One thing we're working on trying to kind of quantify that we're having some issues doing. We haven't quite figured out how to do it. But we have some great anecdotal evidence on the value side of a Sun Prairie shopper. And what I mean that is, you can go out and if you guys as businesses competed solely on price, then we'd have 6 Taco Bells in town, all up and down Main Street. Everybody would be going there, getting their dinner for $2.95, $3, calling it even and done. We look at places like Buck and Honey's. Look at places like Cannery Wine and Spirits, like some of the Last Nickel in terms of pizza. Other things that they have a product that has a value in it that their customers are willing to go out of their way and find them and order from them and visit them. Forever Yours Jewelry, I put you guys in that category. For Music Academy, those guys, and you guys, there's a unique value proposition to what you guys do as a business that allows you, you're not competing on price, you're competing on quality. And I think that's a key thing we need to figure out how to do a little better at. City Hall Pets and Gifts, another story. You go to PetSmart, you go to Mounds, you go to all those other places. No. Sure, you get all kinds. Sure, plenty of stuff. They don't have the products that these guys have. They don't have the services you guys have, and the amount of space that you guys have. So we got to figure out how to quantify that and replicate that, and really get that, and get our small businesses to really acknowledge that and work that into their model more. Guys are already doing it. Almost everybody I see in here is already doing this. So whether you know you are or not, you're already competing on this, and most of your customers are coming to you because of that, not because of your pricing. They're coming there because they like you, they like your store, they like your products, they like your quality. Sure, they'll maybe wrangle with you on price every now and then too, but that's the main reason they're coming. Well, go through the rest of these. Investment continues to be made in Sun Prairie. For those of you who remember last year, we actually had the conversation about the senior housing facility going up on South Bristol Street. They're actually under construction finally, got going here late December. They had some financing issues and other things they had to wrestle with too, just like everybody else does in business these days. But they are doing, even though they've already moved dirt and everything, they're doing the ceremonial groundbreaking on the 23rd. They are actually, the city actually received a $350,000 grant through the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation to help pay for some of the environmental remediation of the soil involved with that site. So that was a huge win for us. We were excited. We were really kind of down when we heard about all the issues with the site. The soils or the structure was bad. There were contamination. It was like, oh God, we're never going to get this thing built. If you guys remember, this is like the 3rd or 4th developer we had out there. These guys are actually moving dirt and getting ready to pour concrete. So I think we're finally through this one. So there are significant investments being made downtown. A couple other small businesses have remodeled, done things to their store. Different companies have offered different product lines and are doing new things with new customers. So there is some positive activity out there. Creative assistance for financing is possible. We have seen some of the most unique private combinations of private funds for projects that I've ever seen. We have a project in town that actually includes 2 guys who actually pulled like $200,000 out of their retirement because it wasn't produced, and they put it into the real estate project because they figured it was a better return. That never used to happen anyway. I mean, they paid their penalty to get that money out, and they're still working.